This is a video that's going to explain to you how to do some very basic algebra questions. Question number 1 from the practice sheet from your booklet is as follows on the page. When you scan and look at this question, the first thing I want you to see is that there are like terms. For example, the 8pq and the 4pq are considered like terms. Do you see any more like terms? In fact, you should see the 6p with a minus sign in front of it, and the 4p. Those are also what we call like terms. The other terms, the q term and the 5 is a constant. There's no variable with it. Those are unlike. Nothing you can do with those in terms of simplifying them together with another term. What you can do though is put together your like terms. So your answer is going to be the combination of the 4pq and the positive or plus 8pq, which is going to become 12pq. When you add like terms, the letters never change. Just like if you add two apples and 4 apples, you're going to get 6 apples, you're not going to get apple pie. 4p minus 6p, 4 take away 6 is going to give you minus 2p, and all those terms are dealt with, and what's remaining is the 9q, which is a positive, and the 5, which is a constant. And that's the answer for question number 1, simplified. Now question 2 is a really dirty question in that it's quite long. Not that it's hard, but it's long. The first thing I want you to see here is that the first bracket and the second bracket have absolutely nothing in front of them in terms of a coefficient, either a number or a sign. So we don't have to do anything with those first 2 brackets, but the second bracket has this minus sign in front of it, which means it's going to change the sign of every term on the inside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the expression below for the last bracket. I'm going to make it minus 5 x squared y minus 2 x y squared, and lastly minus y cubed. And now that those questions that they're all separated, I'm going to identify all my like terms and put them together. So I'm going to use a highlighter. I'm going to start by looking for common terms. So for example, I see an x cubed in the first bracket, which I'm going to ignore because there's nothing in front of it. And I see an x cubed in that expression. Those will be put together into one term. The x squared y, there's a positive 4x squared y in the first bracket. There's an 8x squared y in the second bracket. And there's a minus 5x squared y in the third bracket. Are there any other like terms? Well, we have xy squared, we have an xy squared, and we have an xy squared. They can all go together, and last but not least, we can put the y cubed and the y cubed together. Therefore, the biggest source of error in a question like this is a person getting sloppy. So my instructions are to you, be very, very careful and just organize yourself well. So I have a 4x cubed and a 2x cubed. Going to come together to give me 6x cubed. They're both positive. An x squared y, a 4, and an 8x squared y is 12, minus 5x squared y is going to be a 7. And it's a plus 7 because the positives are bigger than the negatives. X squared y. Now I'm looking for all of the x y squared terms. There's a 7 plus 6, which is 13, and then take away 2, be minus 11, xy squared. And then do we have any like terms? Yes, we have the remaining y cubed. Minus 3y cubed minus, don't forget, in case you didn't read this very well in your notes, if there's no coefficient, it's assumed to be a 1, so minus 3, take away 1, is minus 4y cubed. Did anybody catch my mistake? Wasn't deliberate, but I see it. The xy squared term, this one. 7 plus 6 is 13, minus 2 is 11. It should have been a plus 11xy squared. So be careful. We all make mistakes. Number 3. These are called monomials because we have one term in each bracket. And I know it's only one term because there's only one sign. To multiply monomials is actually very easy. The rules are you multiply the coefficients. So negative 8 times a negative 6 is a positive 48. You do not have to write the sign if the number is positive. To deal with the exponents rather, the rule is when you're multiplying, you must add your exponents. So I see an x term in each. X to the third times x to the fourth is x to the seventh. And the y term, I have y to the 1, although it's not written. There's assumed to be a 1, and y to the fifth. So it's going to be, of course, y to the sixth. Number 4. The only thing different with number 4 is that we have negative coefficients and negative exponents. The rules do not change. Negative 8 times a negative 9 is a positive 72. The exponents, we have only one variable. It's an x, so you add your exponents. X to the negative 6 times x to the negative 3 is going to give you x to the negative 9. Because negative 6 plus negative 3 is negative 9. Now, generally in math, we don't like to leave our exponents with a question with a negative exponent. So, as you learned in class, a negative exponent can be converted to a positive exponent by bringing it to the bottom of the fraction and changing the exponent to a positive value. So 72x to the negative 9th becomes 72 over x to the positive 9th. Negative exponents change to positives when they're on the bottom. Now for question 5, we have a division of a monomial. We have a monomial on the top, written in a fraction, divided by a monomial in the bottom. The method is the same. You divide your coefficients, so 18 divided by 3 is 6. Now what changes here is the rule for division. When you divide with your exponent rules, you want to subtract your exponents. So m to the 5th over m to the 4th becomes m, 5 take away 4, m to the 1, which you don't have to write the 1, but I did. And then the n's, 8 take away 4, become n to the 4th, which you could then, or in the first case, written 6m n to the 4th. There's no need to change any of the exponents because the answers are completely positive. And that's called a division of a monomial. When you divide, you subtract. Now this question is a little bit different, number 6. It's called distributive law or distributive property. Whenever you have a number in front of a bracket, it can be a letter, which is called a variable. It can be a coefficient, just a number like a constant. And you multiply that number by every term on the inside. So we often use little arrows to help us. So 8 times negative 6a, multiply the coefficient by the coefficient. 8 times negative 6 is negative 48, and there's an a term to go along with it. 8 times 11b is going to be a plus, because 8 and 11 are both positive. 88, and then of course there's a b term. And last but not least, 8 times negative 7 is going to be negative 56. And that question is complete. And all the variables are in the correct order. Now question 7 is one of those questions meant to make it look a little dirty. I'm going to rewrite it. You'll notice that we have a single term on the end and a multiple term expression in the front. I'm going to write it where you would normally see it, which is the 2xy in the front, and then the polynomial in the middle, or the end in this case. That's probably the more typical way to see it. Now to complete the question, you multiply the coefficient and the variable, the whole term in the front, by everything on the inside. Our answer is going to have 3 terms. To multiply these, you multiply coefficients, constants first. So 2 times 4 is going to give you 8. Now the next thing is to do the letters. xy times x, that's 2 x's because 1 plus 1 is 2, and the y. Now take your 2xy, multiply it by negative 5y. It's going to give you negative 10 for the coefficient, and there's 1x, but now y plus y is y squared. And lastly, 2xy, multiply that by a positive 2, is going to give you plus 4xy. So the outside number gets multiplied by everything on the inside. That's called distributive law. And last but not least, in this little video, this question's a little bit difficult. There's always a good one in every little set. First thing I want you to see here is the presence of square brackets and the presence of round brackets. That's not a mistake. That is something that's going to help you to guide through the question. So when you're doing a question like this, order of operations apply, and you must work your way from the inside out. So I'm going to start inside the square bracket, and inside the square bracket we have a choice. Are we going to do 8m squared minus 3, which we can't do because they're not like terms, but you also must remember, even if they were like, we still couldn't do that because this negative 3 is multiplied by the bracket containing 9 minus m. And you must clear your brackets first, based on everything we know about math, order of operations. So I'm going to start on the inside, and I'm going to take the minus 3 and multiply it by the 9. I'm going to get minus 27. Take the minus 3 and multiply it by the minus m. I'm going to get plus 3m. And now that bracket is gone, the round bracket. The 8m squared remains. I'm going to keep the square bracket, and I'm going to rewrite the coefficient in the front. I've done one step. I've cleared the inner bracket. Now, your next step would be to look at the remaining bracket and ask yourself, can any of these terms be put together? Are any of them like? And they are not. We have an m squared, we have a constant, negative 27, and we have an m. We can't do anything with that. Our next step will be to multiply the 7 through by each number inside the bracket. So negative 7 times 8m squared is going to be minus 56 m cubed, and then a minus 7m times a minus 27 is going to be a plus 189m, and then minus 7m times a positive 3m is going to be minus 21m squared. This answer, the way that I've written, is acceptable. However, you probably won't see it written like this on a multiple choice answer. The tendency is usually to put them in order from the largest exponent down. So negative 57m cubed would probably come first, minus 21m squared, and then last plus 189m. And those are decreasing order for your exponents. Now, last two questions. I lied. Number 9 is I guess what you should call an evaluate question. We actually know the value of x and y, so to figure these questions out, you have to substitute. So this is where brackets and patience come into play. So we have minus 3 times the value of x, which is 4, cubed, times the value of y, which is minus 4. So now we have to go step by step. Order of operations says you must do the exponents first. So you're probably going to use your calculator. I am not. 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. And then I'm going to rewrite all the rest of the parts, and then we'll solve. So I'm going to multiply the numbers that are smaller. Oh, I can use my calculator, of course. I'd probably do the negative 3 times the negative 4, get a positive 12, and then 12 times 64. Probably going to resort to my calculator anyway, and you would get 768. And a negative times a negative is a positive, times a positive remains a positive. So substitute, step by step, simplify. In the last step, you'll have your final answer. The last one's a little bit more complicated, number 10. Again, it pays to work in steps. Negative 2 x squared, so negative 2 with a negative 2 squared minus the value of y, which is 4 squared, plus the value of x times y, so negative 2 times 4. So working in steps, the first term of the expression, you have a negative 2 squared, you would do that first and get a 4. So 4 times a negative 2, you get that all the way broken down to negative 8. 4 squared is 16, so minus 16. And then lastly, negative 2 times a negative 4 is a negative 8. And plus a minus is still going to be a minus. So minus 8. So you're going to get negative 8, take away 16, take away 8, is going to be negative 32 for your final answer. Okay, we'll do another one for the rest of the exercise.